Hello, my name's Neil Cowie. I'm an English teacher in Okayama University in Japan, and this is
Keiko, and I work for a university called Kobe Shoin Women's University.
And we were fortunate enough to publish an article about e-learning in a recent edition of English Language Teaching Journal, October 2013. And we'd like to make a short video explaining a little bit about that article and adding a few more bits of information to complement what we wrote.
And then we were fortunate enough to be given this opportunity to make a video, and I've never done this talking to a camera myself, so please do bear with me and us. Okay. I'd like to start with an overview of today's video. First, I'd like to talk our background to the study, especially our position as an English teacher. And next, we will present case studies of experts in 5 countries. Specifically, we'll talk about their tools that they will use, or e-learning tools. And also we will discuss institutional issues that they face, and also we will talk about teaching approaches that they adopt. And finally, we will talk about implications of teaching, implications for teaching, and also implications for further research. And first, I'd like to talk about our background. Both Neil and I are non-techie teachers, which means that we know a little bit about technology, but we're average teachers. We're not adept user of e-learning tools in our classroom. And having said that though, we both acknowledge that e-learning or technology in classroom is increasingly important, becoming important. So we have been attending call-related conferences for the last 7-8 years. And still we lack knowledge, and then we feel we lack confidence, and then also experiences. So we wanted to have an overview of e-learning from experts, exactly what is happening, what experts in this field are doing with their technology in their classroom. And based on that results, we wanted to know what we can learn, and also should we, or whether we should adjust our own teaching, and then if so, why and how. Okay. I'd like to talk about our study. As I said, we wanted to learn from experts of e-learning in our field. So we visited universities in 5 countries. 5 countries include Australia, Japan, New Zealand, Singapore, and the UK. We visited these institutions and interviewed these teachers from June 2012 to March 2013. And we basically visited these teachers and then looked around their facilities and observed their lessons when we could, and interviewed these teachers. We qualitatively analyzed these data to look for key themes.
I'd just like to talk about the 3 main sets of results today. The first set is to give you a list of the kind of e-learning tools that the teachers used. By the way, e-learning is not a clearly defined term, but the way we use it is teachers who use devices such as computers, of course, laptop computers or notebooks, and then other devices such as smartphones, in order to introduce content to their students, and for the students to use the same kind of devices in order to make products for their class. The second set of results is to just discuss the kind of institutional issues that we discovered when we went round to these different places. And finally, I'd like to just run over the some of the teaching approaches that we observed, and the ways in which roles change somewhat as teachers move from traditional teaching, classroom teaching, to using e-learning. The types of tools you can divide into two. There are the systems which teachers use to organise their courses and to manage the students, and these are probably familiar to many viewers, various learning management systems. The three that we came across were a Blackboard, which is you have to pay for and is usually an institution-wide system that many teachers use. Moodle, which is open source or free, which can be institution-wide or can be used by individual teachers and run and administered by individual teachers. And finally Edmodo, which is a more of a sort of, has a kind of Facebook type feel to it. It's a recent educationally oriented site that many teachers are now using for their own classroom use. So these three systems were used by, or a combination of them were used by all of our expert teachers. They use them to set up coursework, to give instructions to students, to receive products from students, to set up groups, and the corollary of that is the students would look at the instructions on the LMS and upload their products, or communicate with their classmates. A lot of the function of these LMSs is to encourage collaboration and communication between students. The second type of tool is individual Web 2 tools. Web 2 means the kind of tools that you can use that are interactive, that you can work with other students in the class and the teacher. Wide range of these kind of tools. Interesting point is not many, apart from say translation software or dictionaries, not many were designed for language learning use. They're general tools that are of interest to students or use to students outside the classroom, and that's why many of the teachers chose them, because they felt that these were useful tools that once students had graduated from university they could use them in their future business life or for whatever organisation they went on to work for. In the classroom they mainly used to collaborate on different projects to make something, and that's English in our case, or there were other languages we looked at too, is a kind of used in conjunction with these different tools, either in the classroom or for homework basically. In our article we have a long list of these types of tools. Some of them are social media sites. So you're familiar with Facebook or Twitter. Skype is a very common way to communicate using a video camera or voice communication across the computer. Google Docs to collaborate on writing. Lots of brainstorming, comment type sites such as Tricider or Padlet, which used to be called Woolwisher. Presentation sharing sites, bookmarking sites such as Digo, and a variety of different kinds of tools. There was some animation making software such as Scratch, which was originally developed by MIT for children to learn about programming. That was in use. Camtasia, web capture software, particularly by teachers to give comments to students. YouTube, of course, and you probably, if you are watching this, it's probably on YouTube, and many of the teachers and students used YouTube to post videos or animations or short feature-length projects. So a huge number of these Web 2 tools were used by the teachers to create various kinds of projects. It was fascinating to see the different kinds of projects that they did produce. The second result I just want to flick through is to do with the type of institution that these teachers are working in. We wanted to go and see experts, and maybe we had an idea that they would be in very technologically advanced institutions, and some of them were, and some of them had very nice adjunct faculties for e-learning or computer-assisted learning, where other members of staff could come to a department, give a workshop or introduce some new technology, give advice, write a program for a small tool, that kind of thing. Many of the institutions had computers in every classroom, and many of the students had their own devices that they could bring. So those are the positive kind of places, that normalised places, if you like, where it's taken for granted that computers and technology are part and parcel of everyday lessons. I'd say that Singapore, the institution we went to there, was a normalised institution, and the one in the UK too. Normalised is a term used by BAX, BAX, if you haven't come across his work before. The other institutions varied as the amount of support they had. Some of the teachers were working in sort of technological isolation and did their best without much institutional support, and they were very independent in producing their own materials, creating their own websites, using their own servers. For example, they would create their own, they would install their own servers and work just with their classes. So a variety of opportunities for support, and not all of them very positive. The third area that we picked up on is the different kinds of approaches and roles that teachers adopt when they use e-learning. We asked the teachers what their sort of broad philosophical approach was to teaching, and many of them said it was a social constructivist approach, which implies collaboration. It implies that peers working with peers, with students teaching each other, with a sort of project-based set of classroom-based projects, and it's an interesting thing to think about. Is did the social constructivist approach lead these teachers towards digital technology, or particularly Web 2 tools, which is so interactive and collaborative, or did they start using Web 2 tools and then realise, oh, this is actually a social constructivist way of learning and way of education? I've got no answer for that, but it's an interesting observation, I think. So as that implies, there was a lot of focus on projects and collaboration, students working in teams or small groups, and certainly there's still a language focus, but it was often the second priority in a lesson. The first priority is maybe to be able to use these tools and create something, and in the process of doing that, practice and use language to do that. With an emphasis on lots of products, such as videos, storyboards, collaborative documents. There was a lot of feedback that was necessary from the teachers, probably more so than in traditional a traditional way, where of course you would mark a quiz or give comments on a piece of writing. But these digital products, I think, overall demand a lot more feedback from a teacher, And maybe the students themselves, this is what one of the teachers said to us, was she reported that students themselves perhaps are expecting more feedback, and as some of the techniques will get very games based, maybe the fact that younger people are used to getting feedback through a games framework, they're expecting feedback from their teachers. So that's the second observation about teaching approaches. A final one is that there seem to be no consistent assessment methods at all. I just mentioned there's lots of feedback, but there's lots of different ways to give feedback, and there was no one way to, if you like, test students or give them a grade for what they've done. A common route was to have a project with a rubric and then to match the final product with the initial rubric. But that's one interesting area to look at more in the future, is how assessment and e-learning is coming along.
Okay, implications for non-techie teachers like us. One of the things that we found is that those experts don't use technology for the sake of technology. What we could do is that we can identify problems that the technology can solve, and then look for appropriate technology to solve the problem. So in other words, if technology doesn't improve the quality of education, then we don't have to use it. And so what we could do is we can acknowledge that technology is not going to change our teaching or learning radically, but technology can widen teaching repertoire. So if your institution is using LMS, by all means use it. And then if your institution is not, perhaps we could try to use one or two Web2 tools and see how it works, and then in what way it will fit in the institutional support that we have, or institutional lack of support that we have, and see whether we like it and whether students like it. And maybe that is an easy way to import or incorporate technology in our classroom. For example, if your students are learning journal, perhaps an easy way to adopt the technology is, instead of students writing a journal in pencil or paper, they can upload blog, and then students can comment on each other's blog. Or if your students are practicing presentation, we could do that in a physical way in the classroom, but we could use recording tools, and then they can watch themselves and then try to improve their presentation. Or they might be learning vocabulary, and instead of using a paper card, and maybe students can use flashcard tools. Or if their students are working on a project, they can post their project on YouTube like this one. So there are many ways, and then many ways that we can incorporate technology in our classroom.
Okay, we'd just like to finish up with some personal thoughts about what we learnt on our research journey around these different institutions. And it was a very personal journey. We started off with the sort of research question is, well, what is the kind of overview of e-learning that we can get by visiting different experts? And how can the insights that they give us help us in our classrooms? What sort of things can we learn from them? So we'd just like to share a couple of those.
Yes, so as I said in the beginning of this presentation, that we've been going to the conferences related to core and e-learning, and all these presentations have been very, very informative. We felt like all these topics and technology are a bit busy, and we needed an overview, and then we wanted to see how those technology are used in the situations. So it was very, very good for us to be able to visit them and see the facilities and then talk to the teachers. And it was very good to be able to see the action in a specific context. And one of the things that I personally learned is that we didn't, as I said again, that we don't have to use the technology for the sake of technology. All those teachers, although they are very adept users of technology, they all said that we don't have to use the technology for the sake of technology. Technology should be reserved for problem-solving tools. And if technologies can provide a better quality of education, we should use it. And that was the best or very good thing that we learned through this project. What do you think?
Yeah, and if you do decide to use some technology, just coming across that list of Web 2 tools is quite exciting. You know, you can immediately go to the websites for these different tools and try them out and try to adapt to your own classroom in a small way. Doesn't have to be anything big. What I think I got most from this study is the big picture of where e-learning is going. Of course, there's lots of very useful and interesting new tools that one can use, but I think it's important also to have a sort of perspective on whether these tools are useful or not, and how they fit with education in general, with students' learning, whether they're really can help students' learning. That for me perhaps has been the biggest insight, is to have some sort of overview, I think, of how things are going. Having said that, it's still very much a snapshot rather than a video of the process, because things change so quickly. But I think we've both learned not to fear that change, but to embrace it and to enjoy it, because, you know, technology gives you something immediate to play with and have fun, and I think that's an important aspect too. So
yeah, and that's why we decided to come up with the title of this article. It's never too late. And we feel like we're not very techie people, but still we feel that, well, maybe there are some things that we can start learning and then start incorporating in our classroom. So if we can do it and everyone else can do it, it's not too late. And probably we can continue to seek for ways to increase the teachability or increase the quality of education through technology. So that's how we named the title of our study.
Well, thank you very much if you've got this far. You have remarkable stamina.
Yeah.
And if you'd like to give us any comments, not the rude ones that you sometimes get on YouTube, you can put them just down below here, or we'd be delighted if you sent us an email.
Yeah, thanks for listening and thanks for watching us. As Neil said, yeah, you survived well done, and all the best for your studies.